Cave exploring, also called spelunking or potholing, is a pastime made for risk-seeking adventurers who aren't afraid to trek through some of the darkest, most unmanageable places on Earth. Exploring a natural cave system and conquering its obstacles is just another exhilarating way for these adventurers to push their potential and feel closer to Mother Nature. But as with all dangerous hobbies, the chance of death is always looming, and whether novice or expert, the simplest mistake may just be your end. On November 24, 2009, John Edward Jones was visiting family in Stansbury Park, Utah for Thanksgiving. The family decided to do some cave exploring like they used to when John was a kid. They chose a popular location they'd never been to before called Nutty Putty, which was named after the soft brown clay lining the cave's interior. Around 8 p.m., John entered the cave with 10 other friends and family members and began exploring a large chamber known as the Big Slide. Soon after, John and his brother Josh split from the group with 2 other friends to find a more challenging section of the cave called the Birth Canal. When the 4 decided to go separate ways to look for it, John picked a waist-high hole to explore and went in head first. He found no place big enough to turn his body around and leave the tunnel, so he kept going. John eventually saw a fissure that dropped nearly straight down in front of him, which may have appeared to widen out at the bottom, giving him a spot to turn around. Rescuers believe John sucked in his chest to investigate the fissure, sliding his torso over a lip of rock and down into the 10-inch wide side of the crevice, but when his chest expanded again, he was stuck. Instead of widening so John could get out, the crack grew smaller and all but closed. Struggling to free himself only made John slide deeper into an even tighter 8.5-inch wide section of the fissure. One arm pinned underneath him, the other forced backward by an outcropping of rock. His headlamp was also knocked off. When John's brother Josh heard his older brother was stuck, he made his way down the waist-high tunnel to help him. But after getting stuck himself in a section known as the corkscrew, and seeing how far his brother was wedged in the crevice, Josh knew they had a serious problem. John was almost completely upside down with only his feet and about 6 inches of his legs sticking out of the tight opening. Josh attempted to pull him out, but soon realized they would need help to free his brother. He told John he was calling for help, then made a friend stay with his brother as he made the journey out of the cave to alert emergency services. When he was sure help was on the way, Josh made his way back to where John was stuck and took the friend's place by his brother's side. The Mormon brothers passed the time by praying and talking about Josh's plans for the future. Just before midnight, over 3 hours after John had first gotten stuck, members of the rescue team began arriving. It took rescuers about 30 minutes to reach the tunnel where Jones was stuck. Around 12:30, rescue team volunteer member Susie Matola reached John and greeted him with, "Hi John, my name is Susie. How's it going?" John's reply sounded distant. "Hi Susie, thanks for coming, but I really want to get out." "Oh, no worries John," she told him. "You're going to be out of here lickety-split." As Susie analyzed the situation though, she knew it was not going to be an easy task. The 6-foot, 200-pound Jones was encased upside down by a tight crevice except for a small section of his legs and feet protruding out. The human body is designed to walk upright, and the heart works with the force of gravity, not against it. When rescuers told trauma physician Doug Murdoch that John was nearly upside down, he knew the trapped man didn't have much time. Being upside down, your body has to pump the blood out of the brain all the time, he said. Your body isn't set up to do that. The entire system starts to fail. Murdoch headed for the scene, knowing blood and fluids would be pooling in John's brain and lungs. His circulation would be slowing, capillaries leaking, and toxins building up in his blood. If the rescuers were to free John, those toxins could rush to his heart and kill him. There are very few studies about the long-term effects of being upside down, but Murdoch thought John might have 8 to 10 hours to live. They attempted to tie a rope around John's legs and pull him out, but the friction of the rope on the rocks of the cave walls was just too great. The small space they had to work with, and the depth that John was stuck, also made using big equipment impossible. Many chisels and a drill were used to widen parts of the cave. However, the smaller tools were not working fast enough. They then began constructing a pulley system out of climbing cams, but each trip into the tunnel to pass a piece of equipment took nearly an hour. The rescue team did their best to keep John comfortable by singing religious hymns and keeping conversation. But as the hours passed, rescuers began to hear John's voice grow nasally, and his breathing labored as fluids began to slowly fill his lungs. When they finally got the pulley system operational and began inching John out of the crevice, his feet hit the tunnel's low ceiling. With his heart struggling to pump blood into his legs, the contact made him scream in pain. That's when the rescuers came to a horrible realization. The angle of the tunnel meant they couldn't bend John's body backwards without likely breaking his legs. In his weakened state, the shock could kill him, and the cams anchoring the pulleys were slipping from their places on the cave walls. Around 24 hours later, they had made little progress, and John was beginning to have a very difficult time breathing. Over 100 men and women worked tirelessly to free John from his prison. Unfortunately, 27 hours into the rescue, Jones became unresponsive. Just before midnight on Wednesday, November 25th, John Jones was declared dead. The 26-year-old medical student left behind his wife Emily, a 1-year-old daughter named Elizabeth, and another child that was expected to be born in June of 2010. After his death, the Nutty Putty cave was closed, and the entrance was eventually sealed with cement, with John's body still inside.